Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to another new episode of What If Naruto was taken by Yoda and trained to become a Jedi Knight. If you guys enjoy this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel after watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So now let's start this video. Star Destroyer Renown, Medical Bay. 1 hour had passed since the jump to hyperspace. Ross was finally getting his leg properly treated as he propped it onto a crate while sitting next to the unconscious Siri. The medical bay was highly overcrowded as just about everyone was in triage. There were thankfully only a handful of red indicators, mostly fresh wounded from the 497th, that had been fighting in the hangar, so their chances of survival were a lot higher. Gamble and his men really did some spectacular work. I bet a lot these men wouldn't have made it this far without his help. Naruto would have to remember to put in for Gamble to receive a proper commendation. The battle had been rough, especially on the 644th who had lost quite a lot of men in the initial crash. While the 497th had survived for the most part, they had lost some valuable captains, and now there were multiple vacancies that Naruto would need to replace, something he was not happy with. He hated filling vacancies, it made him feel like a scum. Replacing his comrades with new recruits as if his friends were somehow replaceable. Naruto tightened his fist as the Kaminins started speaking openly with Shakti about authorizing a replacement order for the 644th, considering they had suffered heavy losses. Naruto had a quiet loathing for the Kaminins, and this was a prime example of why. Talking openly in front of his comrades about replacing their fallen brothers. How blatantly disrespectful. They only see them as a potential order, a product to be sold. Senator Halle Bertoni had especially earned his ire with her incessant pushing for more clones. As if there would be any good in creating and sending more men to die in a pointless war. Suddenly, an orange hand gripped his shoulder, and Naruto felt his frustration simmer down. "How are you doing, Nair?" He heard Ahsoka as he turned around to find the youngling behind him. He was somewhat surprised to see her on board a Star Destroyer, but then he remembered she was his apprentice in the practical joke, and leaving her on Kamino was just not an option. "I'm fine, just working on some stuff." Naruto responded as Ahsoka hummed at that. "No, I mean a lot of clones died, didn't they?" Ahsoka fought back, the tears welling up in her eyes. She had trained the 644th too. "They did." Naruto reached up and grabbed Ahsoka's hand on his shoulder. "And how are you feeling about that?" Ahsoka refocused her question. So that was what she meant. She was worried about him grieving. "I'll be okay. It used to really bother me, but now it's not such a big deal." Naruto expertly masked his discontent with the process of replacing the men that had bravely fought alongside him. Whether it be for months or less than half a day, it definitely still got to him. Although there was some truth to his statement, it had become a bit easier as much as he hated to admit it. "So what stuff are you working on?" she questioned, wiping away the last of the sadness from her eyes. Naruto sighed. She wanted to move them away from the previous topic, but this question brought them right back to it. Boring paperwork stuff. Commendations and reorganization of the 644th. They suffered some losses, and now I'm wondering on what to do with their reduced manpower. Naruto stated. He couldn't take a legion at half strength to battle, and the 644th was nowhere ready for another battle. "I think the solution is quite simple, Uzumaki." Ross chimed in from his chair, having been eavesdropping. "They'll have to be folded into the 497th. The Chancellor's original plan for reorganizing the 10th Army will unfortunately have to be put on indefinite hold." Naruto stared back, seemingly in thought, but he had just realized this was the first time he had seen Ross without his eye patch on, at least, in person. That sounded like a good idea. Looking down at his datapad, he went through the list rapidly as he nodded to himself. There would have to be some finagling when it came to the rank of some troops, but he figured that merging the 644th into 497th would be the best choice. The two legions had just fought together, and though a baptism of fire, the 644th had proved itself despite its casualties and inexperience. "Do you think the Chancellor will go for it?" Naruto asked. This whole thing was Palpatine's idea after all, and he was the commander-in-chief. Naruto was sure he could assign some of the troops without a commander into his personal guard, which was what the Chancellor had planned for anyways. Naruto didn't need an entire legion looking after him anyways, a few personal guards would be more than enough. He'll have to. "Your leave is up in a few days, and that's not enough time to drill another half a legion in our particular battle formations, and considering the new developments in the war in your absence, I don't think the rest of High Command will allow you to stay past your leave. They'll want you on the front lines." "What happened?" Naruto inquired. He'd already been away from things for too long. Aside from the push to Raxus being completely stalled, General Grievous and the Confederacy launched a surprise attack from his base on Yagdhul. The Techno Union has finally shown their new frigate, and it has proven quite formidable. His forces went all the way up the Rimmer route and captured Abrigadore. They also took Giju and Fonder along the way, and I'm sure the Republic will want those systems back as soon as possible. That's probably where we, and I'm sure several other battle groups, will be headed towards next against Grievous in the south. Ross had taken a liking to predicting their deployments over the course of the war, and he was usually right 9 out of 10 times. Fonder the name echoed throughout Naruto's mind. It seemed like ages since the battle there. Ross was different back then. Hell, he was different back then, even if he didn't always show it. Naruto looked up only to notice the chaos of several clones being shuttled out of the medbay. Thus we've arrived at Kamino. Naruto thought as he followed his men to the hangar area. He didn't notice it at first, but only the grunt infantry had been loaded onto transports to be treated by the medics on Kamino. Naruto's heart rate elevated, and his stress level began to rise again. He was wondering why Siri wasn't being taken down, or why the maimed captains of the 497th were left aboard. His concern came screeching to a halt when Ross put a hand on his shoulder and pointed another direction with his cane. This way, Uzumaki. Ross guided him to a Consular-class cruiser docked in the Venator's main hangar. Not long after they arrived, Siri and a handful of others were being loaded onto the ship with medics in tow. They're not being treated on Kamino. I've got some pull and we're taking them for high-quality treatment. It's a private for-profit facility on Coruscant, and their usual clientele are senators and corporate kingpins. They'll be treated like royals once they get there. Naruto was about to raise his voice in protest. Was Ross insane or just foolish? He was a Jedi, and even with everything he had saved up, it wasn't nearly enough to afford a private hospital intended for Corps ex-CEOs. Don't worry about it, Uzumaki. Ross reassured, noticing Uzumaki's confusion. I'm paying for everything. Drop in the bucket, I assure you. Naruto raised an eyebrow as he counted the heads left in the room. There were at least a dozen captains, as well as Siri, in the room. Private hospitals, especially high-class ones, usually charge several thousand just for the room. The medical care necessary for some of them, especially Fang and Storm who had lost limbs, would surely put this bill into the hundreds of thousands of credits. But Ross was here saying he would cover everything as if it wasn't an exorbitant amount of money. A drop in the bucket, as he claimed. Then, Naruto pieced together something he never thought he would have to think about. Ross was definitely rich. Considering that admirals in the Republic Navy before the outbreak of the war were a scarcity, they were very well paid for dedicated service. Ross had been promoted through the ranks quickly, and had been a highly decorated flag officer for the past 8 years. He'd never been married or had kids, and ever since the war started he basically spent his every waking moment on a ship eating government rations, so he wasn't spending anything on food or entertainment. He was probably subletting his apartment for the duration of the war too, so he wasn't spending anything on housing either. Ross had also taken charge of the 10th Army's budget, and had done a spectacular job so far. It was likely that every single one of his paychecks was similarly balanced to the last detail. Naruto had seen his place on Coruscant where they were first introduced. It was luxurious but not over the top, so he definitely wasn't wasting his money on extravagant things. Naruto also remembered Ross talking about investing in some businesses with his disposable income. Apparently the investments had paid off well if he was casually offering something that could cost upwards of 500,000 credits. What was he doing? There wasn't time to be mulling over the intricacies of Ross's wealth. He had to get to Coruscant quickly. In the last minute, however, Naruto decided to confirm something with Ross first. Ross, do you think it was a complete coincidence that enemy was ready for us? Naruto questioned. Ross shook his head before answering. Not only was the enemy ready, there was a massive army in the making. Our intelligence wasn't the least bit accurate, not by a long shot. That was definitely a trap set specifically for us. So Ross had come to the same conclusion he had. To me, it seems that either High Command has been infiltrated, or the intelligence wing of the military has a Confederate spy. At the very least, I'll be making a very strongly worded formal complaint for their ineptitude that bordered on negligence. Naruto stated as Ross nodded at the theory, a smile on his face. And you're avoiding talking to the Chancellor via transmission is because the holocommunications might be compromised? Ross questioned, causing Naruto to nod. Right? I don't want to tip off the spy that he or she might have been caught. Signaling the end of the conversation with a wave goodbye, Ross began using his simple cane to waddle to the transport area. Naruto was confused as to why he wasn't staying. Where are you going? Aren't you coming with us to this fancy hospital of yours? Naruto asked. It's just a grazing leg wound. I don't need that kind of treatment. I'll take care of all the administrative work in merging the legions, Uzumaki. You'll, of course, have the final say on assignment. But for now, just make sure Tachi stays safe on the way there. I'll meet you on Coruscant in a couple weeks. Ross said as the doors shut. So, have you talked to Siri yet? Ahsoka questioned as Naruto shook his head. He'd almost forgotten Ahsoka had followed him the whole way here. Not yet. She hasn't awakened yet. Naruto responded. He hadn't had the time to head out to Coruscant. He sighed as he put his datapad down as he turned to Ahsoka and gave her a smile. So, I suppose you're going to want to come back to Coruscant with me. Naruto responded with a smile as Ahsoka paused before she giggled mischievously. If that's your order, Master Naru. She replied with a coy and obviously sarcastic bow, causing Naruto to shake his head with a scoff. Even when she was actually respecting him as a Jedi Master, she still really wasn't. Any excuse to get off this terrible planet, I suppose, right? Naruto said as the Star Destroyer jumped to hyperspace with Ahsoka in tow. He wanted to meet with the Chancellor personally to discuss about the most recent debacle. Approaching quietly, he sighed as he looked at the still form of Siri. She had still yet to awaken after the battle, but it seemed like she would be okay. Walking up to the bed, he grabbed a seat next to it and sat down. I shouldn't have divided up our forces, he spoke, feeling guilty of letting Siri getting injured so badly. It was his call that ended up getting Siri injured and so many clones getting killed. He should have simply kept them all together. Then he would have been able to defend them all. Grasping Siri's hand, he held it tightly. I promise. Next time, I will defend you, even at the cost of my life. That's my promise for this lifetime. He promised her, vowing to make sure that something like this never happened again. He hated seeing her like this. It filled him with anger, not towards anyone, but towards himself. Sighing to himself, he got up. I hope you wake up soon. It gets boring without you around. I have to talk to the Chancellor soon, so hang tight, okay? Naruto spoke as he smiled sadly before he turned to leave, missing the twitch Siri's unconscious hand produced. Coruscant, industrial sector. Darth Sidious was not happy, scratch that, he was furious. That blonde Jedi had once again survived. He had tried getting him killed by sending him into impossible battles, yet he came out alive every time. He attempted to make him a galactic pariah by sending him to attack defenseless worlds with mostly civilians, but Uzumaki's budding political acumen had maneuvered him out of that. He tried keeping him out of the major battles like Destined and Renvar, but Uzumaki found loopholes, and his plans were again unsuccessful. And now, the trap he had so carefully planned specifically for him, had failed too. Uzumaki had infuriated him to no end. If Palpatine hated one thing, it was things not going his way. He had managed to fool the Jedi, gained unprecedented power in the Republic, killed his old master, and yet he couldn't deal with a single Jedi who was well on his way to derailing his plans. He needed an outlet for his anger. Dooku's assassin will answer for this failure. He thought darkly. Dooku had failed him in the past, and he had failed him again, his assassin more so. It was time to have a chat with his appetants. Pressing a button on his desk, the room darkened as he donned his black robes. These transmissions were highly secure, but it didn't hurt to always have a contingency to hide his identity. Yagdhul, master, please. You don't understand. Ventress pleaded as Dooku frowned, unleashing another dosage of force lighting, electrocuting the assassin once more. This was her punishment and motivation. Punishment for failing her mission and motivation for her to complete the next mission to avoid more force lighting. I understand that you failed in your task, despite given an army large enough to conquer almost any world in the galaxy. And you got plenty of my acolytes killed. Dooku responded as he kept using his force lighting. On the side, Grievous watched Dooku reprimand Ventress with a bit of curiosity. Dooku had already electrocuted the Zabrak and it to death for his failure. It was no secret that Grievous was not a big fan of Ventress. In fact, he believed that had he been sent to kill the Uzumaki he would have succeeded, but Dooku was being quite contradictory in his actions. These had to be the actions of a fearful man. As Sidious was furious, then Dooku was in trouble himself. His acolyte's failures were his failures, and his master wasn't going to take his failure lightly. He noticed the holodisk beeping, but also noticed that Dooku was too busy teaching the assassin an important lesson. Walking over to it, he pressed a button, accepting the incoming transmission, and before him stood a hologram of Sidious himself. My lord. Grievous greeted with a slight bow, causing Dooku to pause his torture and to look at the hologram with slight fear. Lord Tyrannus, why is it that I find Naruto Uzumaki still alive? Sidious inquired as Dooku gulped. He quickly took a knee and lowered his head. Forgive me my master, but the operation failed. Dooku answered, which was not a solid answer, it was just an answer. Sidious scowled as his turn to look at the assassin, who was recovering from her punishment. Evidently the word was long and drawn out, and Sidious clicked his tongue with every syllable. My lord Sidious, the target proved to be more resourceful than anticipated. The clone named King managed to hold me off before defeating me. He provided far superior to your average clone. He was a top X commando. I don't mean to question you, but I doubt even you were aware a clone could be so strong. Ventress desperately addressed her failings. Her pride as a Sith had taken a massive hit after being beaten by a mere clone. How was she expected to face off against a Jedi Master if a mere clone could defeat her? Sidious did not look placated, and now she was questioning his knowledge. He thought that she might have been beaten by Uzumaki himself, which would have been more a forgiving excuse, but a clone. Unacceptable. That boy's forces are proving to be much greater of a threat than anticipated, but this failure will not go unpunished. Sidious was about to tell Dooku to do away with Ventress, but Dooku spoke up. Master, this clone that goes by the name King is far more powerful than any other. He had matched me when he first fought, even if it was right after I had faced a much more capable combatant earlier. That clone is not to be trifled with. And Uzumaki is a Master Jedi. Even if Ventress managed to get through this former commando and face off against Uzumaki, she would have undoubtedly lost, and she was wise in fleeing. Her failure will not be excused, but I ask that you be understanding and have some faith that she will not fail so greatly next time. Dooku stated, causing Ventress' eyes to slightly widen. He knew that she would have lost. That's how powerful was this Jedi. Looking towards Sidious, he looked absolutely livid at Tyrannus' words before he turned to Grievous and cut the transmission, leaving Dooku more fearful than before. It was clearly that Sidious was not pleased. Grievous in the meantime was grinning. Could he even grin now? Either way, his eyes showed his delight. Grievous's thought raced in his mind. Dooku and Ventress had failed, and it was unlikely that either of them would be a match for Naruto a second time. Naruto be on high alert against Dooku and wouldn't fall for the same trick twice, and Ventress was a weakling barely a match for some hotshot clone. Ventress. Dooku began. You will not be going on any missions for the next few months. It's time to further your training so that you do not fail me again. Ventress bowed at Dooku's gracious mercy, knowing that she would never receive this opportunity again. Grievous felt a twinge of jealousy at this but did not lament. He had killed dozens of knights, and even Jedi Masters. Yes, he was still leagues above someone like Ventress. Chancellor's office, Coruscant, 5 days later. There could be no denying it now. Sidious had to consider that Uzumaki was a far greater threat than any Jedi, right up there with Yoda and Windu. If left unchecked, the boy would only grow more in power and status, perhaps even enough to rival his own, and he could not have that. He could not allow an upstart Jedi to ruin his plans any further. Plans that had been in the workings for a very long time, one of which was a prolonged war that would tire the galaxy. Uzumaki's victories are bringing the war closer and closer to an early end. I must finish him before the war is unlosable for the Republic, otherwise, Sidious thought as he balled his fists, but took a deep breath to relax. He couldn't allow himself to showcase his anger. As much as he wished to kill two birds with one stone with a simple application of Order 66, there would be no way that anyone would believe the story that King would kill his closest friend a brother, without reason. Sidious contemplated his options for a few moments before coming to a realization. His efforts at subversion had failed. It was time he took a more direct approach to deal the young Jedi Master. Supreme Chancellor, Jedi Master Naruto Uzumaki is here to speak to you. He was informed through the intercom as he blinked. Speak of the devil and he shall appear. Palpatine had not expected Naruto to come to him. He gathered his thoughts and pressed a hidden button on his desk, opening a secret compartment and revealing an electrum-plated silver cylinder inside. He was not about to take any chances. It was possible Uzumaki had figured out who he was and had come here to assassinate him. Palpatine slid his lightsaber into the sleeve of his robe and pressed a button, another, much less menacing button on his desk. Let him through, Palpatine stated as he calmed himself and took a seat. It was time to act like the kind and reasonable, a somewhat firm and stubborn Chancellor he made himself out to be. The door slid open and in walked Naruto Uzumaki, the Jedi Master, causing him much trouble. Ah, General Uzumaki. To what do I owe the pleasure? Palpatine questioned, a smile on his face as Naruto took a seat before him. Palpatine kept smiling, but he hated that Naruto had taken a seat without being offered first. How utterly disrespectful. Chancellor, I'm afraid I'm going to have to dispense with pleasantries and cut to the chase. I am sure you are aware of what happened during my last assignment. Naruto questioned as Palpatine nodded. How could he forget? He had arranged that suicide mission himself. Yes, quite the battle it was from what I have heard. However did you manage to escape? Palpatine stated with a somber tone. I lost many good men, Naruto responded, lamenting all those who died during the battle. Shaking his head, he pulled out a datapad, an official report of the battle. Palpatine accepted the datapad to find out where his plan went wrong. You could have sent this data through normal communications. I'm not sure why you came all the way over here just to give me this. Palpatine reasoned. What purpose did the Jedi have? I have another reason for coming, Chancellor. The Separatist forces were completely ready for my attack, leading me to believe that it was a trap. Naruto stated. I see, and I'm sorry for this turn of events, but these things do happen in war sometimes. It would have happened regardless who I sent. It's for that fact that I'm somewhat grateful I sent you. I'm sure you were able to minimize casualties. Palpatine tried to deflect the question, but Naruto didn't flinch with his next words. This trap was obviously set specifically for me. I'm not sure, but I have reason to believe that either High Command or the intelligence branch have been infiltrated by Confederate spies and sympathizers. If there isn't a spy, then High Command's lapse in judgment should be investigated. If they knew the enemy's strength, then they shouldn't have sent me unprepared. This caused Palpatine to stiffen, but he quickly compassed himself. Had he really been discovered? No, he made sure to cover his tracks. I see. Who do you think it was that set up this trap? Palpatine questioned, acting as if he was surprised by it. I assure you that I will be investigate everything discussed today to figure that out. Naruto, thanking the Chancellor for hearing him out before, stood up to make his way out of the office, but Palpatine stopped him. Please wait, Master Jedi. I'm sorry, but I can't spare you for this investigation of yours. As I'm sure you've heard, General Grievous has caused trouble in the southern inner rim. He's dangerously close to Corellia, and Senator Iblis is concerned that, even with his special proclamation of neutrality, that the Confederacy will attack. I've heard you're somewhat close with the Senator, and I'm sure you know how bullish the man can be. This was Sidious's last-ditch effort to forestall Naruto's investigation, something that would assuredly oust him as a Sith given enough sum. And I trust you'll be appointing someone to investigate the matter. Palpatine couldn't hide his twisted smirk, but he worked it into a bright smile. Absolutely, my boy. I'll see to it personally. This put Naruto at ease, and he suddenly remembered his manners. Then I'm satisfied. I'll begin organizing the 10th Army to launch a counteroffensive against Grievous. If I may be excused, Your Excellency. Naruto was eager to get back on the battlefield. Yes, of course, Naruto. Good luck. Palpatine smiled as Naruto left his office with a bow. That man is not to be trusted. Naruto sighed as he heard Kurama's voice. He didn't know why, but Kurama didn't like Palpatine one bit. Be quiet, you annoying fox. Naruto shot back. It wasn't that he didn't totally distrust Kurama, it was when Naruto questioned about Palpatine from Kurama all the fox would say is something felt off about him. Needless to say that was not a good enough answer for Naruto. Perhaps the Chancellor's polite and friendly demeanor pissed the fox off a little too much. They were fighting a galactic war, and there were far more pressing matters to attend to than an evil, violent voice in his head, saying he smelled something fishy. I'm not just a voice in your head, you damn brat. Kurama shouted back, but Naruto shook his head as he exited the Chancellor's chambers. After a long walk through the Senate building later, and he noticed that Ahsoka was still patiently waiting for him by the docks of the Senate building. He was somewhat relieved that he didn't have to comb the building for another 20 minutes, just to find out what trouble she had gotten into. Naruto. Naruto stopped as he heard his name by an all too familiar voice. He closed his eyes as he turned around, hoping that it wasn't who he thought it was. But alas, when he opened them, he found the only person who managed to hurt him ever truly just a short 2.5 years ago. Senator Amidala. Naruto replied quickly and coldly, to which Padme slightly flinched, but she supposed that she had it coming after how she ended things. I heard about the battle at Larider Minor, are you okay? She questioned in an attempt to open up a dialogue with him. It had been quite some time since they talked one-on-one, somewhat because of the war, and mostly because Naruto had been avoiding her. I'm fine, and my troops will manage. You don't have to worry about me. He stated, causing Padme to shake her head. But I am worried. You're still a dear friend of mine regardless of our recent history. She tried reaching out, but after hearing that, Naruto narrowed his eyes. Like how Anakin is your dear friend. Although I get the feeling he's become more in recent history. He finally asked the question he had wanted to ask for a very long time. What do you mean? Anakin was my bodyguard during the assassination attempts before the war started, but he's just an old friend. Padme seemed to be asking him to elaborate, but that was the one thing she didn't want him to do. Did he know? If so, how? She and Anakin had been very careful about their relationship. Naruto held up his hand to stop her from making a further fool out of herself. Even at their best, he always disliked her dismissive nature, especially when she had been caught in a lie. Back on Geonosis, I saw the two of you riding that reek out in the middle of the arena. I'm actually surprised others didn't see you. Naruto stated the obvious. He had always known ever since that day. He didn't blame Anakin for the two of them drifting apart, or even for falling in love with Padme. Force knows he did too, but he definitely had a chip on his shoulder, after Padme used his affiliation against them being together, and then completely ignored her own logic for someone else. She tried to form words but find herself speechless. What could she say in a situation like this? That she had broken his heart just to fall in love with another Jedi a couple years later. That she was sorry. She knew she was in the wrong after using that excuse. She ended their relationship because of the growing feelings she had for Anakin. Look, Padme. You don't need to say anything because there really is nothing more you can say. You told me that you couldn't be with me because you didn't want to jeopardize my place in the Order, because I had just become a Jedi Knight. If you had asked me to leave the Order to be with you, I probably would have done it. Without any regrets. Naruto finally let out what had been building up these past few years. He felt a tremendous emotional weight fly from his shoulders. I couldn't ask you to do that, you've always wanted to rise to the rank of Grand Master. It's been your dream since I first met you. Padme tried to explain her reasoning, but Naruto stopped her. But you could have tried. Instead you chose to destroy what we had, and for what? Another Jedi. I don't know if you realize it, but using the Order to dismiss me and then running right into the arms of Skywalker was, I think the phrase I would use is, complete and utter hypocrisy. What's even happened with the two of you since there? Wait, don't tell me, I actually don't want to know. Naruto's frustrations had almost gotten the better of him, and he sighed as he turned away. He still felt something, despite what she did to him. He would eventually forgive her, but he could never look at her the same. We're married, she answered his question anyways, albeit after a long pause. Naruto closed his eyes and took a deep breath. The girl he had loved was now married. It was as if the knife that was stabbed in his heart all those years ago was being removed. Taken out slowly and painfully, but at least it would finally start to heal. I see was all that Naruto could say as he began to walk away. Then I wish you the best of luck. Don't worry, this secret is safe with me. Was all he said before he left the hallway, leaving Pat to her own thoughts. Not only had she left him, but she had also married another Jedi Skywalker, no less in secret. I still don't understand why you associate her after what she has done. Kurama commented, but Naruto didn't say anything back, he just kept walking. Kurama sighed and went back to his slumber. I suppose it's because he's been through worse since. Kurama thought as he yawned in his cramped cage. Naruto had been through many battles, some of them nearly life-ending, and still managed to come out on top. He had faith in the blonde despite being at odds with him most of the time. McDonough Private Hospital, 2 weeks later. Check out this new arm. Never thought the Admiral of all people would buy me something like this. Fang commented as he flexed his new cybernetic arm, and spun it in ways that would be impossible for a flesh one. Normally a maiming like this would have put an end to any clone's career as a soldier, but not Fang. Ross departed with some serious credits to give him a top-of-the-line prosthetic. Will you shut up about it already? I'm still trying to get used to this new leg. Storm replied as he kept waddling slowly along the floor. He was still a bit angry at the fact that he had lost his legs as some idiot girl wielding a red space sword. This new leg was heavier than his old one, and was much more difficult to move around. He missed his old biological leg, not that he wasn't thankful for his new one. All that added weight was perfect for giving Fang's ass its much needed kicking every now and then. Am I interrupting something? A familiar voice drew their attention to the doorway. General. Storm snapped to attention, but Naruto only gestured for him to settle down. New arm, new leg. Naruto questioned the two. He had put in a request for the two to get cybernetics, but this soon? Not to mention that those did not look like standard cybernetics. Well, the Admiral paid a hefty price for them, and let me tell you, these bad boys are way better than standard issue ones. Fang answered, eager to explain the inner workings of his cybernetics arm. Naruto hummed. He walked into the room. I don't know much about the Admiral, but I know that he's gotta be loaded if he can afford such cybernetics on the fly. This baby has a built-in device for hacking into computer systems, and is capable of electronic lockpicking. It's like I'm part astromech. This is so awesome. Fang stated in excitement like he was a child in a candy store. Naruto chuckled at Fang's behavior. For someone who lost a limb, he was really happy. What about your legs, Storm? Naruto questioned as the legs seemed to be made out of very high-quality material. Well, I'm not quite sure if it does anything aside from let me, but it is pretty sturdy. Heavy too. I'm still getting used to walking with it, but I'll let you know if that changes. Storm answered. He hadn't looked into the capabilities of his leg like Fang did, mostly because all Storm cared about was destroying more droids than anything else. Ross didn't get the time to tell him what his leg was capable of, and neither did the medical droid. He would have to ask Ross later or figure it out himself. I see. Well, at least you two got your limbs back in a sense. Naruto commented with a slight chuckle as he made his way towards the entrance. I have someone here who's eager to see you two. Naruto left for a different room, as King entered with a smile to check on two of his best men. He had a few things to discuss regarding changes to the 497th series room. A few minutes earlier, Siri had woken up just a few days after the battle, thanks to the advanced back-to facilities the hospital had access to, and her recovery was going swimmingly. For the past few days she could stand up and walk around without any pain, but the medical droids insisted that she not do so, too much as her leg and heart were still recovering from the internal injuries the blast wounds inflicted. Too much physical exertion could cause her more trouble. Rather than lay in her bed, Siri had opted to lounge around the room, taking a seat in a reclining chair that she found to actually be far more comfortable than the bed to sleep in. She was eating flan out of a cup broadly, as nothing interesting ever happens in a hospital. Fang and Storm had recently come by to check on her, but they were mostly learning how to use their new prosthetics now. Ahsoka had come to check on her once with Master Adi, but with the wartime constraints were at an all-time high, and Siri was beginning to feel a little lonely. That quickly changed when she senses a familiar presence just a few moments before it walked through the door. It was Ross, fresh back from the campaign to retake the Fonder shipyards. She was somewhat thankful that he had a new eye patch on, as she had just been eating. Well, it wasn't as bad as he made it out to be. It wasn't something she particularly enjoyed seeing. From what she heard, the Confederate 11th Fleet was waiting for him to come, and although he managed to get a few good hits in, he ultimately had to make his first retreat. General Tan had proven to be a capable adversary, and there were rumors that she was one of Dooku's acolytes, a dark side user like the Twi'lek and Zabrak women that she had fought on Larator. You're up and about, that's good. Ross greeted warmly. Siri felt off-put by the complete shift in Ross's personality. She had been noticing some small changes, but ever since they crashed on Larator, he had almost done a complete 180 from the attitude he had when they first met. Ross, what are you doing here? Siri asked. Sure, she had sensed him coming in, but she didn't have a clear idea on why he was here. I had planned on coming by a week ago, but High Command rerouted me to the battle at Fonder. It didn't go so well. No, I meant why are you here at the hospital? Siri rephrased her question, trying to get a more concrete answer out of him. Is that any way to treat the man who paid for your treatment? Ross deflected the question. He was still unsure if he wanted to follow through with the purpose of his visit, so he tried. Not to mention this room costs $3,000 a day, and food and caretaking expenses are another 1,000 and change. How in the hell do you eat so much and keep your figure? Siri remembered that in her teens before she had ever met Naruto she was pretty thin, having grown out of her somewhat pudgy face teeth. Then, the blonde passed along his eating habits, and she gained over 20 pounds. She worked most of it off over the years, with an increase in exercise. Dueling with Naruto helped a lot with that, and rationing during the war had also caused her to slim down a bit more. But she was inactive, and her diet had not changed. She probably gained everything she lost over the past 6 months back in just this past week. So why exactly did you pay for this room? Hearing that Ross had paid for everything well, she originally thought that Naruto or the Order had covered the cost, but this revelation was unexpected to say the least. Ross looked a little embarrassed at first, and then she started to feel the cracks in Ross's mental armor through the force, and she suddenly felt what he was feeling. I guess there's no way to get around it, then. Ross began to speak, but he was stopped by Siri. No, Ross. We can't. For so many reasons. She had felt the Admiral's passion and desires creep through, and although he may have changed for the better, no. She was a Jedi, and being in a romantic relationship was against the code. Not that she was the strictest adherent to it, anyways. I understand your misgivings. I'm sure I haven't made the best impression on you in these past 6 months, but I've always found your unrelenting determination alluring. You never once backed down against me. In fact, one of my first memories is of you slapping me right in my face, and speaking of faces, well, I suppose I'll just say that I've always liked the look of yours. Ross understood completely, but that didn't mean he was ready to give up just yet. He was about to go on, but Siri again interrupted. But you did save my life. Carrying me around on your back when your leg had a blast wound for nearly an hour, I'm kind of impressed. So, let it not be said that I'm ungrateful. Siri rose from her chair and wrapped her arms around Ross's waist. He was surprised for a moment, but he eventually did the same. So, thank you, Ross Darhin. I really thought I was going to die there for a moment. And I definitely am in your debt. Ross felt a little uncomfortable with her resting her head on his shoulder so close to his eye patch, but he simply accepted it for as long as he could. At least, he did until the door slid open and a certain blonde came in to ruin everything. Ross cursed his superior's alien name. Damn it, Uzumaki. Siri turned her attention to the door and immediately brightened up after seeing Naruto and rushed over to hug him on her still wounded leg. Good to see you awake, sis. I see they've begun nerve regeneration therapy if you're feeling that much discomfort just by walking. Naruto reached under her armor and supported her weight to keep her off her foot. Uzumaki, what brings you here? Ross asked. He hadn't expected Naruto to return from Giju for some time. Visiting me, obviously. Siri said with a hint of faux arrogance. And I can see I'm obviously not alone in that. Naruto looked over to Ross, somewhat confused by the situation he walked in on. Ross and Siri hugging. Not something he expected in a million years. Ross looked a bit annoyed by his arrival, and Siri had a pretty embarrassed look on her face when she saw him walk in. Naruto wasn't too smart, but he wasn't a total idiot. He knew how to read a room and when his presence wasn't fully welcome. Well, I suppose I should just get to the point. Siri, the council has asked me to lead the upcoming group of initiates to Ilum, and it's a rather large group for political reasons. I want you to come with me to help tutor them in building their lightsabers. Siri could tell he was upset that the council was rushing some initiates that otherwise might not be considered ready into becoming Padawans. You know I'd like to, but there's no way the stiffs in here would let me leave on this foot. Siri looked disappointed. Any other time and she would have come along. Well, the mission isn't for a few days, and you'll probably be sitting for most of it anyways. You know Ahsoka would love to see you there when she picks out a crystal. Well damn, Siri did have a similar soft spot for Ahsoka. Fine, I'll talk to the medical droids about speeding up the nerve regeneration treatments and getting her a temporary release. Ross spoke from the corner. He had a considerable amount of pull at the hospital. One of the chief investors, Estrandano, was a man he'd rescued from a group of pirates a while back. He owed him for life. But you'd better take good care of her. Ross swore lightheartedly. Awesome. Thanks Ross, and you know I will. Sorry to make this visit so short, but I've got to report to the council on what went down on Giju. Naruto said with a wave goodbye and he began to head towards the door, but he stopped short when a menacing grin spread over his face. He turned back to his adoptive sister and said, by the way, Siri, you know you're in a hospital gown, right? Your ass is on full display for the world to see. I'm sure Ross in particular is enjoying the view. Naruto got in the last prank, and Siri became 1,000 shades of red darker, while the color subsequently drained from Ross's face. Sometimes you're the devil himself, Naruto Uzumaki. Siri immediately tried wrapping her gown tighter, only to find that her recently gained weight made it one size too small and impossible to fully close. Embarrassed, she ran at Naruto with her pillow, and threw it at him as hard as she could, but he ducked out the doorway and closed it behind him, only hearing the muffled sound of Siri's allegations of perversion. She then realized that Ross could still see her from behind. She pivoted on her good foot and sat onto her bed as quickly as possible. She resisted the urge to slap Ross for not warning her earlier, but she remembered that he had seen her bare chest while he was treating her wounds back on Larator, so she didn't care too much. The next minute or two was a time of complete silence. Siri was too embarrassed to speak, and Ross too afraid of inciting her wrath, but he eventually mustered the courage to speak. "So you and Uzumaki, then?" Ross had always postulated that Siri was interested in a romance with Naruto, and seeing how she just reacted to his arrival, he figured it was true. "What? No, we're just adoptive siblings. I'm sure we've mentioned that in front of you several times. Why would you think I'd ever date that colossal idiot?" Siri rejected his suggestion with venom at the mere mention of Naruto. God, did he know how to get under her skin sometimes? Because it's quite strange the way you two are around one another sometimes. You certainly argue like siblings, but also like an old married couple. And I've seen the way you two pretend to flirt with one another. Siblings, even foster or step-siblings, simply do not act that way with one another. At least, not normally. Ross addressed the elephant, and Siri realized that she was caught in his net. "Those are just pranks we play on one another. They started when he was a teen and starting to mature. Jedis aren't celibate. We do have casual encounters to help relieve stress and clear the mind." He was at the age that women were starting to enter his mind, and I would tease him about it. A lot of people thought we would eventually run off and leave the order back in those days. Eventually he got over the embarrassment and started doing it back to me. Ross simply stared with a look of disbelief. If they didn't have feelings for one another, then they wouldn't do something like that. Siri stared back for a moment but caved quickly. "I mean, I wouldn't say that I haven't thought ever about it, and I'm sure he has too, at some point, but... Ross pressed, trying to rush her to the point. "I don't think either of us wants something like that. Our feelings aren't romantic. There might be some attraction, but a relationship." Siri was trying to explain. She definitely had something deeper with Naruto than a friendship or an adoptive sibling, but they had simply never made anything of it. The gap in age, while not too awkward now that they were both adults, was something she felt wouldn't go over too well. After all, he was 15 and she was almost in her mid-20s. I don't think that could have ever happened, and especially not now. It would only complicate things, and not to mention endanger both of our careers. Naruto's dream is to become Grandmaster one day, too, and I don't want to become any sort of an obstacle to that. Siri felt that something could have happened at some point, but she was 8 years Naruto's senior, and that window was too brief. She had recently turned 34, and Naruto would be 26 in just over a week. Well, I have to say I think it was for the best. I don't think I could have ever pried you away from Uzumaki. Siri laughed at Ross's joke. He was witty and charming when he wanted to be, she'd give him that. But that still doesn't matter. Naruto and I never happened because of bad timing. We were divided by time, and when we finally weren't, we were divided by space. So I'd have to mention that you're asking me out in the midst of a massive galactic war. That's the epitome of bad timing, Ross. And what about later? You and I are almost the same age, unlike Uzumaki. Yes, I suppose that time isn't a factor for us, but timing is. This war is just too much for me right now. I couldn't handle leaving the order or hiding a relationship from the council in the midst of all this. Siri reaffirmed the current impossibility of their relationship. So what you're saying is that maybe when the war is over, Ross trailed off, hoping Siri would pick up from there. I suppose that when the war is over, then what is impossible now might be possible, but not before. So you can ask me then. Ross looked dejected for a moment, and Siri didn't feel like shutting him out totally, after he had put so much into this. "But you've grown on me, Ross. So while we can't see each other right now, I think friends would be a good place to start in the meantime." Ross took a moment to contemplate this. He leaned in closer, taking a slightly deeper breath, and while staring Siri dead in the eyes, he responded with one defiant word. "No?" Siri blinked. Of all the things he could have said, she definitely didn't expect that response. "What do you mean, no?" Siri asked, chuckling in confusion. She was somewhat worried she had angered him by relegating them to friends for the time being. "I mean, no, I'm not waiting until after the war. I'm going to make you fall in love with me now." Ross spoke back just as defiantly as before. Siri could feel her cheeks reddening. "Really?" Siri smirked. "Care to bet on that?" "Well, if I win you over, I win you over. So my victory condition and reward are already decided. What about you?" Ross's growing grin was powerful and dominated her view. She definitely liked that about him. "I'm sure I'll think of something especially humiliating for you to do. Get back to me later." Siri kept her smirk going. Ross chuckled, thinking of several possibilities in order from least to most embarrassing. After thinking of a particular scenario, he paled for a moment and shook his head in slight terror. Siri laughed as her mind churned. "So about that debt you owe me for the whole saving your life thing?" Ross began, and Siri lifted a cautious eyebrow. "I believe you owe me a date, one date. As friends and professional colleagues, if it makes you feel better about it." Siri rolled her eyes. He was already being stubborn and pushy about this. His mind was made up, and it was the only logical decision that the two of them go on this date. Fine, we can go on one friend date after I get back from Island. Pick somewhere nice, but not too nice. Jedi don't exactly have high-class casual clothes. Siri relented with a light. Ross had become someone she could like, even care about, and he did save her life. She owed him at least this much. I know just a place. Ross returned her smile warmly, and it slowly began to creep its way into her mind. Siri had seen him smirk and grin before, but she was pretty sure this was the first time she saw him actually smile. At the temple. The ride to the temple was fast, considering that it wasn't all too far away from the hospital. The gunship slowly descended, allowing its occupants to exit. So this is the Jedi Temple? King questioned as looked up at the temple in slight awe. It didn't look high-tech, in fact, it looked pretty old. Yep. This is where Naru and I were trained. Ahsoka said proudly before she was bopped on the head. I'm the one who trained here, you're still in training. Naruto corrected her, causing Ahsoka to pout as he chuckled at her bratty teen attitude. Come on, let's get moving you two. Naruto stated as he took the lead. The council wanted a full report of the situation in the south. More specifically, they wanted to know more about Ventress and the Dark Acolytes that had appeared at Larider Minor, as well as Grievous's capabilities. Now that a skilled master like Naruto had fought with him again. Naruto had brought King along because King had not only managed to survive fighting Ventress, he had also managed to defeat her as well, on his own. Naruto. It has been a while, hasn't it? Naruto turned to find Obi-Wan. Smiling, he nodded. Yes, that it has. What have you been up to, old man? He hadn't seen much of Obi-Wan in the past month. Anakin and I just got back from a rather sticky situation on Tiburon. Tiburon. That was so it was Obi-Wan's battle group that provided him support in the retaking of Giju, drawing separatist forces away from the front lines. I must say that battle you were in was quite devastating. Obi-Wan stated. He had heard some details about the battle Naruto had been in, not all the details, but he knew that it had left many dead. Sure was. I was actually heading to the council chambers to debrief you folks on Giju and Larider too, as well as the other systems along the rim. I got redeployed so quickly after Larider I didn't have time to make any reports. The south is really heating up, think they're trying to take our eyes off of Felucia. Naruto responded as Obi-Wan shook his head. I was actually talking about Giju, but I'll hear about it more during your report. Obi-Wan joined the group and the four of them heading towards the council chambers. As they neared the chamber, Naruto turned to Ahsoka and King. Sorry, but I'm gonna have ask you two to wait here. Jedi Master business. After I finish with the council, I'll call you in. Just protocol. Naruto stated as King saluted while Ahsoka pouted. He was treating her like a kid. Once Naruto and Obi-Wan entered the chambers, Ahsoka looked at King. She had been itching to ask him for the past 2 weeks. So, King, did you really beat Asajj Ventress? She questioned him, wanting to know if it was true. King nodded at the question. Yeah, though she did give me quite a bit of trouble. He responded, pointing to the thin crescent moon-shaped scar near his eye. Ahsoka was slightly awed by the fact that a clone was able to defeat a Sith, alone, in melee combat. You must be pretty powerful, but I bet that I'm better than that Sith was. Ahsoka boosted, confident in her skills. She had been training with Naruto in their spare time, and she'd gotten better than the others in her youngling group. King raised an eyebrow, smelling the distinct scent of overconfidence in the air. Are you sure about that? King questioned her with a chuckle as she nodded. Care to prove it? King questioned her once more. He knew that Ahsoka was good, but not as good as the leader of the Dark Acolytes, not yet. He should teach her a lesson to not underestimate your opponent before it becomes a bad habit. You're so on. I'll take you to the training hall. Ahsoka answered, excited at the prospect of fighting a real opponent. King simply chuckled as he followed the hyperactive young Jedi. Jedi Council chambers, you were forced to retreat. Master Mundi asked worriedly. This report of the Battle of Giju was truly troubling. Massive casualties to the 394th Legion, and they barely managed to hold the planet. I did everything I could, but his mechanical body is able to outpace even me unfortunately. Shakun's apprentice did not survive the encounter with Grievous. Naruto spoke solemnly. His former master now also had a worried look on his face. He would have to speak with his niece about Baelis's passing to help her through the all-too-familiar pain of loss. I find it difficult to believe that you, possibly the fastest duelist in the Order, could be outpaced by a cyborg like Grievous. Koth voiced his doubts, but Naruto had nothing to say back. Grievous had 4 arms and was simply that fast. Naruto would encourage Master Koth to face him to confirm this report, if he weren't in front of half the council, with the other half being preoccupied in the many battles off-world. Grievous is a terrifying opponent. Remember that we almost lost Master Mundi to his slaughter on Destined. Obi-Wan defended Naruto, and Mundi's hologram nodded in confirmation. But I am curious. The reports say that almost the entirety of the 394th was wiped out in this battle. How did you manage to hold Giju with just 1,000 clones surviving? We improvised and conscripted. The remnants of the 394th acted as the core of a locally raised militia to help retake the planet. Eventually there were so many people fighting for the Republic that Grievous had to retreat. I think this would be a good strategy to employ in the future. having small units of troops support larger planetary uprisings and resistance groups. Naruto had noticed that the irregulars, even his own, were very seldom given permission to be deployed. Disbanding these troops and reorganizing them into planetary militias would be better suited to the Republic's overall strategy, which was to capture seceding worlds and starve the Confederate war machine. It would do no good to simply have their limited amount of clones charge and head first to each battle, suffer casualties, and then leave behind the irregulars as a garrison force as they had been doing for the past few months. Your suggestion is noted, Master Naruto. However, I would like to discuss the other matter we brought you in for today, involving these dark side users you mentioned appeared at Lairder. Master Windu changed the topic. Naruto wasn't exactly looking forward to this, as the memory was still a little painful, but he was a soldier, and he had to grin and bear the loss. There's not much to tell. Dooku has begun training more and more force sensitives in the dark side. There were 6 presents on Lairder in total. Of the 6, 2 escaped, including Ventress. The capabilities of these acolytes, judge them to be, what do you? Yoda was worried that the Sith Empire of old was trying to make a return through his former apprentice's teachings. It could be a problem if they became too numerous or too powerful. Some were on the level of capable Jedi Knights. Others are green, barely Padawans. I only did battle with 3 of them, and I haven't seen any others since, but 2 of them were capable of holding me off long enough for it to become a problem. Naruto embellished the skills of his opponents a bit for a reason. He would rather the council approach this new threat seriously than with a grain of salt. He didn't want knights that had been rushed through the ranks to be put up against the likes of Ventress. Knew of Ventress's betrayal, we did, but these acolytes are cause for new concern. Yoda concluded, stroking his chin in thought. I agree. We will need some time to meditate on the issue. You are excused, Master Uzumaki. Naruto left the chambers after a polite bow to Mace, and gave a small nod to Obi-Wan on his way out. You don't think that Dooku's mysterious master will try to corrupt young Jedi into serving the dark side, do you? Plo Koon asked the other masters, knowing that they had all asked themselves the same question. That is always a possibility we have to be wary of, not just because of this war and unknown Sith Lord. Mace countered. A Jedi could never relax when facing the allure of the dark side. If what Uzumaki said is true, then it's all the more important that we test our older groups of initiates now. We will need even more Jedi to combat this new threat. Master Rancisis had grown a small fondness for Naruto's improved attitude upon becoming a master. He would dare say that the boy was beginning to grow on him. Are we sure of Naruto's capability when it comes to judging these kinds of things? General Grievous is little more than a droid in Sith clothing. CC Tyne's hologram spoke. He wasn't ready to be a master. There's no guarantee that we can put our trust in him when he's not exactly the sharpest of mind. Naruto wasn't dumb, to be sure, but his intelligence was average at best, and this was no trifling issue for lacking wisdom. His intelligence was not what I trusted in when I voted to grant him the rank of master, it was his skill and battlefield experience. Mace defended Naruto, albeit reservedly. Being totally honest with himself, he didn't think that Naruto was ready for the full rank and responsibilities of being a master, but war has a nasty habit of not waiting until everyone is ready. He voted against his better judgment, and he didn't think he was alone in this. Masters Peel, Koth, and Gallia had taken quite a bit of time to cast their votes as well. In judging the threat of these new acolytes, trust him, I do. In his assessment of this General Grievous, more skeptical, am I. Yoda's hologram proposed a compromise. I can agree to that. Naruto is capable in combat, but perhaps he's simply not suited to battling a cyborg like Grievous. Someone with more skill, an experienced master, might be needed. Adi Gallia acknowledged that she wasn't the best duelist on the council, and her brief encounter with General Grievous on Mimbin had given her a reminder that she still had much to be desired physically. I just hope we're not rushing into things. I fear that we've lost the virtue of patience. Plo Koon warned, but Mace disagreed with that sentiment. He had even stepped down as Master of the Order for that very reason. He felt his obligation to the war would cloud his judgment as the leader of the Jedi. In times of war, there is seldom opportunity for patience. Jedi Temple, dueling halls. She's so much like the General, it's uncanny. He thought to himself as the two headed to a practice hall located in the many courtyards of the temple. Finally reaching an empty room, the two stood against each other face to face, as Ahsoka activated her blue training saber, while King took his own vibroblades out. Unlike Jedi who could simply lower the power of their blade, King had to disable the vibration function and coat the edges in a special sparring wax to avoid harming his opponent. Ready? She questioned King, who nodded as he wiped the excess wax from his knives. He fought a crazy bald lady with 2 red glowing sticks. He was more than ready for an orange brat. Without warning, Ahsoka charged first. Her saber held in the basic form. King, however, didn't move, allowing the saber to get closer before sidestepping to avoid the broad, predictable attack. Ahsoka quickly spun around in order to land a hit, but once more King sidestepped, this time ending up directly behind her. Ahsoka swung her blade wildly at her back, but King simply kept himself behind her. She eventually pivoted on her foot and started to attack again. Ahsoka frowned as she kept on trying to land a hit, but not only was King keeping up with her, he was dodging each strike as well. He hadn't even used his blades. King had been dodging her all day long. He would be overconfident by now. He'd done good up until this point, but it was time for Ahsoka to unleash her secret weapon. Grinning as she flipped her saber, Ahsoka started using the reverse grip form V-Shen. King was thrown off balance by the sudden change in speed and power of her attacks, but he recognized the style as one used by Naruto and quickly adjusted. However, something still felt off and he was having difficulty in properly parrying her attacks, and that's when he realized the ingenuity of her reverse grip. Now, she thought as she finally managed to catch him off guard, quickly disarming him and pushing him onto the ground. She looked at him, a grin on her face. "Told you I was better than Ventress," she commented, but King chuckled. "Good to be sure, but not better." "Not yet," King replied as he flexed his fingers. Ahsoka looked at him confused until she felt her legs being tied and pulled from underneath her, causing her to fall. "Ninja wire," she shouted mentally. She could recognize those wires anywhere. Naruto had used those to play pranks in the temple, and he taught her to use them as well. They were quite handy if you wanted to be stealthy. Although he had told her that they did have their uses in combat, she had opted to use them for pranking. King, however, used it for what it was intended for. "I win," King stated, causing her to look up, her own practice saber in his hand, pointing at her chest. "If it hadn't been for these wires I would have won." Ahsoka grumbled as King removed the wires for her to get up. "With that logic I could win every battle. If it hadn't been for the enemy, I would have taken that outpost," King reasoned as Ahsoka pouted. King sighed as he threw her saber back at her. "Listen, kid. You're gonna be out there fighting in the war sooner rather than later, and in war nothing is fair. The enemy will have battle plans, tactics, weapons, and counter-strategy that you haven't anticipated. Things that you couldn't possibly anticipate. So always be sure to know your enemy and remain aware of your surroundings. You were too caught up on defeating a single opponent, me, that you failed to realize your own surroundings," King stated, causing Ahsoka to look down in embarrassment. How could she have forgotten all her training just like that? "Well said, King." The two turned their heads to find Naruto, standing at the edge of the hall, smiling at them with a slow clap. "What King said is true, Ahsoka. Be aware of your surroundings, now more so than ever. I fell into that trap against Dooku, and it's not a mistake I'll be making again," Naruto stated as he then turned his attention to King. He could tell that the clone commander had improved quite a bit since the war started, but King still looked frustrated. "Something wrong?" Naruto asked, but King looked at Naruto, sternly. "Sir, would you mind sparring with me? Not training like we have been, I want to face you at full strength," King questioned. He had faced down droids, a tired Sith, and an elite assassin. He wanted to see how he would fare with Naruto, a Jedi Master. To him Naruto wasn't just another Jedi general. No, Naruto was someone who could lead thousands of warriors into a losing battle and still come out victorious. There was just something about him that compelled others to follow him. He wanted to see how he would stack up against such a person, someone stronger than your average force sensitive. "Well, if you insist, then I see no problem," Naruto replied as he began to take his position on the field, adjusting the power of his saber. Ahsoka quickly moved out of the field but remained close until Naruto gestured for her to back up. She moved onto the second floor catwalk. She wanted to see everything Naruto was capable of as close as possible. "You know those wires will be useless against me, right?" Naruto questioned as King nodded with a smirk as he put away his wire. Naruto was the one who taught him how to use them. It would be useless against a man who had been using them since he was a child. King readied his vibroblades. His expression hardened as he waited for Naruto to attack, and attack he did. I could barely even see him. Ahsoka shouted to herself as King managed to block the incoming strike. Just how fast was Naruto? King was somehow able to keep up with Naruto's blinding speed strikes. He was always on the defensive, however, only pushing back when a counterattack presented itself. Naruto's terror strikes, while powerful and nearly imperceptible to non-Jedi, were still pretty predictable. King relied on his reflexes to guide his blades, while his mind foresaw each blow. "I can do this," King reasoned, but alas, that was to change. He noticed that Naruto quickly changed his style. He wasn't using any particular lightsaber form. This was Naruto's own unique style that he had been developing ever since he first became a Jedi Knight. Naruto had chosen a terror and form V-Shen as his specialties. In his time with Shakti, she drilled Makashi into his head, but the form's precise nature required tremendous amounts of discipline that he simply lacked. Training under Kid Fisto, he tried teaching him the advanced techniques of Shaicho to make his attacks less predictable, but again, Naruto lacked the discipline for the counterintuitive blade work. But these efforts were for naught, as Naruto has taken what they had learned and turned them into valuable tools in his arsenal. After becoming a knight, Naruto started learning the other forms, but only the rudimentary principles. He knew Suresu and Naiman wouldn't suit him much, but transitioning his specialty in Shen into Gem so wasn't too difficult. That was when it finally hit him. So this awkward stance, with Naruto holding his sword hand directly in front of his mouth, and his left hand seemingly relaxed and his right side poised aggressively towards his opponent, this was the result of a dozen years of training coming to fruition. A style that combined the speed and relentlessness of a terror with much of the powerful counterattacks of Gemso, and the essences of Makashi and advanced Shaicho. It was a form capable of delivering powerful attacks at lightning speed that you could only just see coming. For most people, they would end up blocking poorly, if at all, but King had an advantage over most people. He had seen it a few times before. A horizontal strike from the left, no, the upper sinister. King thought as the dark blue saber was coming for him, but he was ready to block it. However, Naruto quickly switched his angle of attack, turning his shoulder in the blink of an eye. Now the attack was coming from above angle. King barely, just barely, managed to block it. Nice one, Naruto commented, but he was just getting started. His attacks became ruthless as each series of strikes was enough to push King back. He'd held out for a few minutes beforehand, but Ahsoka counted, and he was blocking nearly 10 strikes a second. She could barely keep up with the sheer speed at which Naruto was swinging his blade. He would launch a series of quick jabs and cuts, flip his blade into a reverse shin grip, strike a few times, throw it into his other hand for a few more strikes from the other side, and on it went from nearly every angle. King was lucky he had 2 vibroblades, otherwise he would have no hope of defending himself. Half a minute of this onslaught from Naruto meant King was breathing heavily, beads of sweat dripping down his forehead. Naruto, on the other hand, hadn't even started to slow down. Naruto took notice of his opponent's growing exhaustion, and knew it was time to strike. He suddenly flipped over King mid-swing, throwing out reverse strikes from above before landing behind him, before he quickly turned to deliver a roundhouse kick to King's side, sending him crashing into the ground. But King reversed his rolling momentum to trip the approaching Naruto, who just barely recovered. But the flow of his attacks had been interrupted, and it gave King a brief respite as he crawled to his feet. Off to the side, Ahsoka watched the match with awe. She had realized that King had held back greatly during their match, considering that he was able to hold back Naruto for this long. I'm amazed at how much Naruto has grown just during the war. The voice of Plo Koon caused her to turn and find a small crowd of Jedi had begun to gather and were watching the match intently. Some had been passerby observers that were enthralled by the expert dancing of blades. Many of them were amazed by Naruto's unique blade work. It was unearthly fast and unpredictable, which made what King was doing even more surprising. It was unheard of, considered impossible for a clone to be able to keep up with a Jedi Master, especially a dueling expert like Naruto. Had that clone been force sensitive, he would have made a fine Jedi. It was Master Windu who said that, shocking many of the Jedi Knights and Padawans present. Windu wasn't known for his compliments. For him to actually compliment a clone like that meant that King was no joke. Mace wasn't too keen on scaling the prowess of others, but if he had to speculate, King's overall skill was on the level of a mature Padawan well on his or her way to knighthood, but his ability in combat perception exceeded that definition. Naruto will win. His abilities with a blade are definitely on the level of a great Jedi Master. Plo Koon once again chimed in. He had trained Naruto when he was just a young boy, and the blonde had grown like none other before. His skills in combat were almost unmatchable, bested only by Jedi Masters that were held in the highest regard, and apparently Dooku and Grievous. There was no doubt in Plo Koon's mind that Naruto would one day become a Grand Master. There were rumors among the younger folk that Yoda intended to retire after the war and pass the torch along to Naruto, but those were just silly rumors. But can we talk about his blade work for a moment? That new lightsaber form is fierce. I definitely couldn't cut out against it. Obi-Wan joined the conversation. It was true that plenty of Jedi Masters eventually developed and mastered their own unique form of combat. Someone like Shakti, for example, had mastered both Makashi and the Terror to a very high degree, and created cadences to freely flow between the two of them in combat at will. Yoda had taken the basics of all lightsaber forms, and trained them to highest degree possible, and combined these skills with centuries of a Terror mastery. Master Plo was also impressive, one of the few to defeat Grand Master Yoda in a duel with his powerful and unique standard grip variation of Shin. Master Windu. Well, he was the one that created Vapid, so Ahsoka didn't have to think about that too long. It would certainly be frightening to go up against, and I'm saying this as a master. I'm amazed King has held out against it for the 2 minutes he's managed so far. Ayla finally crawled out of the woodwork, her eyes transfixed on Naruto, who was flipping over King, attacking in ways that no person should be able to predict or block, and then flipping over King again to attack from a new angle. He was moving his blade and body so fast that it looked like King was starting to be surrounded by a dome of dark blue light. Ahsoka was completely stunned by Naruto. She always knew he was good, but she never thought he could be this good. Alas, this new form is still yet incomplete. It has 2 glaring weaknesses, and I'm sure Dooku exploited both of them as best he could once he recovered from the initial shock. To fix one, it requires only continued training and experience, but the other is something that only Naruto could potentially overcome. Plo Koon complimented his former Padawan with a hint of doubt. Ahsoka was curious, she couldn't see any weaknesses at all. Naruto's terror fence was bolstered by an aggressive gem-so defense. She was too stubborn to ask, so she tried to spot it herself, but she found herself distracted by the rising chatter of the young knights and Padawans around her. Whoa, did you see that? Is that really a clone down there? A short-haired girl was amazed by King's skills, which led Ahsoka down an entire train of thought, as to if Naruto had given King some basic lessons in Jerkai. That doesn't look like any Ataru I've seen. A Zabrak Padawan shouted, completely unaware that Naruto's form was original. These distractions ultimately grabbed part of Ahsoka's attention, and she was surprised to hear the clashing of lightsaber and vibroblades stop, and a loud thud echo throughout the hall. I win. Ahsoka's attention snapped back to the duel before her, as Naruto proclaimed victory over King, who had been knocked down onto his back just like her, although he was brought down from the stinging sensation of a lightsaber, impacting his chest instead, and grumbling about how it was absolutely impossible to defeat Naruto without the aid of the Force, to which Naruto chuckled. It's not about whether you have the Force or not, it's about being aware of your surroundings, your opponent's capabilities. Naruto threw out the same advice King had given to Ahsoka back at him alongside his hand, a small smirk on his face. Even he could get one-track mind sometimes. King blamed this on his objective-oriented commando training, but even this weakness was something he could hope to overcome in time. There was always room to improve. He pulled himself up with Naruto's help, and that was when Ahsoka saw what she thought the masters had seen. Naruto was beginning to sweat. In all her years, Ahsoka had never seen Naruto break a sweat or suffer from any signs of physical exertion whatsoever. Naruto's stamina was in a class of its own, and it was somewhat jarring to see him exert himself trying to pull King onto his feet. Then, it clicked in her head. Naruto was only able to manage that supersonic offense by exerting his body to the absolute limit, and focusing everything he had mentally into force valor. Keeping up something like that would utterly destroy one's own body within a few seconds. Naruto had been using it for almost 3 whole minutes. She figured that Naruto maybe had another couple of minutes in him at most, before he would eventually have to stop fighting altogether. Master Plo was right, that saber form really was something that only Naruto could ever hope to master. Down below, King was exhausted beyond belief, barely having the energy to stand. His muscles were burning from the near superhuman exertion he had put them through. His shoulders, knees and wrists ached from the constant barrage of power attacks coming from all angles, even above and below. Ahsoka could see from her perch up above that the hardened wax on his blades had long been torn to pieces by Naruto's nearly ruthless offense. Naruto was also sporting a small cut on his lower neck from an almost lucky counterattack King managed to get in. Wait, Ahsoka thought he had said there were 2 weaknesses. If bodily strain was one, then what was the other? Jedi Temple Hangar, 3 days later. A few days had passed, and Siri had finally discharged herself just the other day, against the advice of the doctors and medical droids, who thought her foot still needed more time to heal. With the Republic now fighting a heated war on 2 fronts, with General Tan spreading out from Confederate strongholds, and the South and Grievous moving his forces to Felucia to reopen the Northwestern Theater. In response to this, the Jedi Council, after great debate, had chosen to conduct the initiate trials early, and send dozens of younglings to search for the crystals that would allow them to build their own lightsabers. They're only kids, Naruto muttered, not liking the idea one bit. Once these Padawans had gained their own lightsabers, their training would be soon taken over by a Jedi Master, and that meant fighting on the front lines, and the battlefield was no place for kids. You were a kid once too, and only 11 when you fought in the Mandalorian Civil War. Ahsoka pointed out as Naruto sighed. That was true. He was but a child when he first got involved in a war, but that experience made him determined to not have other Jedi suffer through the same grim reality. But the Order was beginning to get desperate. More and more Jedi were pushed into military service, spread throughout the galaxy as the Separatists waged war with their endless armies. Just because I did something once doesn't make it right. It's not healthy to go into a war so young, Naruto argued, although he was somewhat hypocritical in his thinking. He was training to become a shinobi, and most saw combat by the time they were in their early teens, if not sooner for some. These Padawans were about the age, but they still wouldn't stand a chance on a real battlefield with thousands of droids blasting them. They weren't ready. Hell, he wasn't. Always the pacifist, aren't you? Siri's voice caused him to turn and look at her. She seemed good as new. As if she wasn't nearly killed just shy of a month earlier. Aren't Jedi supposed to be keepers of peace? Naruto questioned with a raised eyebrow as Siri smirked. The fighting is how we have to keep the peace, then so be it. Siri answered as Naruto chuckled. The two were not what one would call traditional Jedi, right? Well, let's get on already. The shuttle won't be waiting all day, you know. Naruto stated, but blushed. Is someone's verbal tick coming back? Siri questioned as she wiggled her eyebrows, causing Naruto to grit his teeth and snarl. Is someone's weight coming back? Naruto snapped back without thinking, entering territory he shouldn't have, and received a nice series of punches to his left shoulder as he ran on board the shuttle, followed by a raging Siri. Sometimes I have to wonder if the two of them really are Jedi Masters, or if the Council is playing a really big prank on me in revenge, for Ahsoka simply said to the rest of her youngling group as she let the initiates onto the shuttle. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.